Right. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hope we're good. Just make sure my mic is set up correctly. For those of you that are joining, can you just let me know that you can see and hear me all okay? Had some great fun with tech this morning. Just let me know that you can see and hear me. You should see a chat box there to be able to communicate with me on. And what we're going to do is probably start in around about a couple of minutes. So if you could just let me know where you're tuning in from today. I was having a quick look at some of the names that have joined and then some of your LinkedIn profiles actually. And it seems we've got people from all over the world, which is great. So we've got people from Nottingham, Newcastle, a couple of people from where I'm from in Northampton. Amazing, good to see you all. We've got Verna from Nigeria. We've got Australia. Okay, great. Whereabouts in Australia are you from, Jackie? Just let me know. John from Wales, good stuff. Gail from Surrey. Amazing, cool. So just to make sure that you're all in the right place, today we're here to talk all around LinkedIn events, live events, workshops, and webinars. Now, I'm hoping that's the thing that you're wanting to hear about if you've registered for today. And it's a brand new training. It's not something that I've ever publicly spoken about before. Some of the concepts are quite similar in terms of what we teach across different trainings and masterclasses that we run. But really what I want to take you through today is like the exact approach that we use to, one, fill these events, two, then be able to generate leads off the back end of them, and then ultimately revenue. So if that's the sort of thing that you're looking for, then I can assure you you're in the right place. Charlie, good to see you. I was going to say, it feels like ages ago Birmingham was, isn't it? Hope you're all okay. And so with that being said, what I'm going to do is just share my screen, bring this one up. Make sure I've got the chat box all on so I can see everything. I'm going to swap displays. Right, can you all see the pink slide? So without present view, the normal presentation, can I just double check you can see it before I crack on? I've definitely done it before, where you end up delivering presenter view, and it is just not pretty whatsoever. So good, everyone can see it, amazing. So today, what we've got really is a focus on LinkedIn events. So I've been running these now for 2 and a bit years, and the stuff that I'm going to be talking to you about, I'm still doing today. So the strategy, the approach is literally what you've kind of been through or are currently going through right now. You would have either have received an email from us inviting you to this, or you may have received a LinkedIn event invite, or you may have come across from YouTube or Facebook. Actually, out of interest, where and how did you hear about today's session? Was it through LinkedIn, or was it via email, or was it through another social media platform? I'm actually really curious. So we've got a few LinkedIn's coming in, email. Okay, normally it's around about a 70-30 split, with 70% to email and then 30% to LinkedIn. But actually looking at this, it looks like it's 50%, which is 50-50, which is actually rare, but it's really, really cool. Perfect. Thank you very much for all of you that have took the time to answer. If you've been on one of my workshops before, you'll know that they're very interactive. So I'm not just going to sit here and talk at you. There's some thinking that you need to do. There's some work that you need to do. Should last around about an hour, maybe just slightly over. And what I'd really like to know is a couple of questions, really. Number one is, what is it that you do? So kind of like summarize it for you. Are you a service-based business owner? If so, what service do you provide? Are you a coach or a consultant or a speaker? I'd be really clear to know what you speak about and what you consult on. The reason I ask is because I'm going to tailor this to you in terms of the advice that I give. So yeah, if you could let me know kind of what it is that you do. And then the second question is to whether you've actually run a live event before, or is it something that you're looking to do and you're interested in? Because again, that will just dictate as to what level of depth I go into on this. So we've got a few people that are looking to do it. Got a few people in network marketing, coaches and consultants. Cool. So quite a few consultants, which is amazing. Recruitment agency, but we are special, which is good, amazing. Export consultancy, looking to do it, amazing. Okay, so we've got a bit of variety. We've got people that are just starting. We've got people that have run some before. And that's really, really helpful for me because it means that there's certain areas where I can get quite deep on these sorts of things for you. Now, over the last two years now, rather than 18 months, actually, it's probably closer to 2 years, we've worked on, and when I say worked on, we've either delivered them ourselves or we've consulted on. So you might not know who Pipeline 44 are and what we do, but we specialize in webinar delivery. It's one of our main sources of lead generation for ourselves, but also how we help other people as well. And over the 360 plus events, it's about 365 now. This is the 365th that we've done. There's been some real similarities and reasons as to why people fail when it comes to this approach and this strategy. You'll hear lots of people talking about how webinars don't work, how workshops don't work, how LinkedIn events don't work. And actually, they're probably right if they're doing these specific things. And what I want to touch on today is take you through kind of how to avoid making these mistakes and then how to actually implement this into your business straight away. Now, the first key reason, especially when people are just getting started or people just start running their first workshop, what I've realized is that you've got to have a certain level of authority for people to actually want to listen to you. When I first started in business around about 4 and a bit years ago, if I'd have just started running webinars straight off, trying to preach to people around what they should and shouldn't be doing, it just wouldn't have connected very well. So one of the things I always say around this approach is that you've got to be knowledgeable. You've got to understand what you're talking about. And then the way that you go out there and build your brand, you've got to position yourself in the right way and earn the right to be listened to. What I find lots and lots of people doing is they're out there telling people what to do without really having the authority to do so. So I'm going to talk to you about how do you earn that right and how do you position yourself. Reason number 2 is that people lack the audience size. So they may only have just been starting in terms of social media activity and don't have any followers. Now, that's actually okay if you know how to build an audience. That's something that I'm going to talk to you about today, and certain elements of is how do you build an audience at speed? Traffic is the biggest problem for most people when it comes to lead generation. And we don't currently spend a huge amount of money on any paid advertising. The majority of our stuff is done organically, so for free. And some of the stuff that I'm going to teach you today is how do you then do that for yourself and apply it to your own businesses. Number 3 is the bit that I find sexy. You probably won't do, but by the end of today, I'm hoping I can change a few of your minds. But it's all around process. And what I find lots of people doing is that they run a workshop, but there's not really attached to anything. So what happens is there's lots of different gaps, and that's where opportunity is lost. I'm going to share with you today the exact approach that we use, the step-by-step process that links it all together so you can actually identify what's working and what isn't. This one's a big one, and it's the thing when it comes to delivering a workshop, and this is the last section of today's training. But what lots of people do is they treat webinars like masterclasses with a pitch slapped on at the end. And what they find is that they try to pack it with loads and loads of content and loads of value. And at the end, they try to panic and rush through to try and deliver a sale that they don't really want to deliver because they feel icky doing it. And that's a big one that I find lots and lots of people kind of treating as a hurdle. And what I want to talk to you about today is how you overcome that. And the 5th one kind of complements number 4. It's that you don't have a structure to the way that you deliver the workshop. So what happens is you end up talking a lot, but not really saying very much. And therefore what happens is people leave the workshop and they feel amazing. They say how great it is, but they never go on to do anything and work with you purely because you've not driven them to want to make a change. So the structure is really, really important. Now, out of interest, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, are there any on there that relate directly to you right now and actually think, yeah, that sounds like something that might be a problem for me? Normally 4 is the most popular. However, let's just see where everyone's at. So there's a few 4s coming through. A couple of people are saying 2. There's a couple of people that are saying none as well. So that's fine. That's a good position to be in. But it's also, there's still work to do. Number 3 is the process part. Okay, that's a good part to admit. That's good. I like it. Audience size, and then a lot of people saying all as well. Okay, great. Again, all of this is really good feedback for me because I can spend certain areas and go into depth in certain areas if the majority of you are feeling that that's the biggest obstacle. So it looks like 4 and number 1 and then number 3. So great, works perfectly. Now, the good news is that we've got that all covered, and I've split today into 3 specific parts. Number 1 is going to be around that positioning. So for those of you that said number 1 and earning the right to be listened to, that's that bit. I'm going to talk to you about how do you build your authority and how do you figure out what you need to be saying to get people to listen to you. For those of you that said 3 and 4, the process part, that's going to be in section 2. So we're going to talk to you all about the process in depth in terms of what you need to do and how you need to implement it. And then section 3 then is all around the presentation. So the delivery part, like how do you present information in a way that's easy to understand, that's going to drive change to a point where someone wants to book in a call with you. Now, you're probably sitting there, some of you, probably wondering who I am. And actually, again, I'm going to ask the question just to see. Have any of you ever, like, is there any of you on here? This is the first time you've ever watched me deliver one of these workshops before. Just put a yes if it's the first time for me. Or if it's a no, then just tell me how many times that you've came if you can. Again, it's just good feedback for me to see. So lots of new people watching for the first time, which is brilliant. That's purely because of a little bit of a targeting change that we've done with this workshop that I'm actually going to share with you how we've done it. Because what we want to be doing with these workshops, and it's the biggest tip I can give you right at this current point, is being able to not niche down so you only talk about one specific thing, but to have little micro presentations that you can deliver so you keep tapping into new audiences. And it's about adapting what you sell and the way that you package it so it can be delivered into micro parts so you get more and more people coming. Now, this is fantastic, like really good feedback. I appreciate it. Now, I'm not here to talk to you about me today, really. Like, it's not about me whatsoever. I'm here to share with you the information that you've come to find. But just so you know, like what I'm talking to you about today, I live and breathe it right now. So this is the one main strategy that we use in our LinkedIn marketing agency to drive traffic, to generate leads, and to generate sales. I've personally ran over 100. It's probably a lot more than that actually now. However, that's something that I used the last time I counted, which was back at the end of October. So probably about 110, 120 webinars. And I spend lots of time watching other people deliver them. So inside of our academy, which I'll introduce you to at the end, and we have people running workshops over and over and over again. And I kind of treat watching webinars, as sad as this sound, a bit like my Netflix. So people load them up, I watch, I give feedback, and we move. And again, there's certain things that make a webinar really, really powerful. And there's also certain things that make it an absolute car crash. Now, what I want you to know is that the strategy that I'm going to talk to you about, and I've got a few people on here, there's lots of different case studies that I'm going to share today that I'm going to use and talk you through how they've gone about doing this. And we've generated over 25 million quid in sales. One person has gone and generated over 15 million himself. So it's 10 mil from everyone else. One person's just done insanely well that I'm going to talk to you about very, very soon. The first killer question, right? Moving in is why live events? Now, running webinars and workshops, for some of you, I can imagine might be a little bit intimidating. I definitely thought this when I first started. The feeling of going on and talking to people in public, as well as online in this capacity, wasn't something that I felt particularly comfortable with. Now, the reason why I spend so much time on this and why I teach it in the way that I do is because the opportunity is so big on this, especially if you're using LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is a huge platform for generating traffic. It's the one reason we use it is to build an audience, right? And what it gives us is the ability to promote directly on the platform. So again, if you're running events right now, LinkedIn is like your best friend. Set your event up on LinkedIn and you can send 1,000 invites every single week across to people. You need to be utilizing that. What it also then enables us to do in this format is rather than me producing like a piece of content or running like a LinkedIn live or posting something online where actually you're going to be distracted by lots of other things that are going on. By running an event like this, it gives me the ability to spend more time with you, delivering you the information that's going to showcase, one, how good we are at what we do, and also how easy it is for you to implement and do the exact same thing. So depending on what business that you run, coach, consultant, recruitment, whatever, what you need to be looking at is in terms of how you set up your event, like what is it that you can say that's going to really show off how great you are at what you do? These are things that I need you to think about straight away. This third key reason here is absolutely massive. When you have this process in place, you're able to work out, and I'm going to give you the full statistics of our workshops when I go into the process section. But when you get this done right, you have something that you can actually be able to predict how much business you're going to generate every single month. I didn't know this at the beginning. I didn't realize how powerful it would be, but I now know that if I can get 1,000 people across a month to say yes to a LinkedIn event, that means I'm going to guarantee myself between 20 and 30 new clients every single month. That's just the way the statistics break down. I'm going to share with you the exact percentages a little bit later on. But when you look at this process, we've now generated, just from like using LinkedIn events only, we've generated more on other platforms, but just on LinkedIn events only, over 7,500 leads in just over a year. That's without spending any money on ads. So like, to put this into context, currently on Facebook, for a lead, for me to be able to get someone into my business to watch a webinar, so to show up, what we're looking at is around about £7 to £8 a lead. So let's just put that in at £7. So if 7,500 leads times by £7, it's going to cost me over £50,000 to get that level of traffic to show up onto a webinar. You get that for free on this platform when you know how to get the right hooks in place, when you know how to invite in the right way, when you know how to filter, and you know how to get people to actually show up through the messaging tactics that we use. That's £50,000 saved for us that we can reinvest somewhere else. And this is just one approach that you can use. When you get this right, you can have multiple different streams of leads coming through. But live events gives us the ability to be able to then build a real strong relationship and then be able to move people down a sales process to the point where you know that a certain percentage of people that show up are going to be your ideal clients. And this is the big thing for me. What we want to be doing is spending time on calls, talking to people that we actually can help. And then the second part is speaking to people that want help. I don't know how many of you are on here that run strategy calls or sales calls. So you just have to let me know. But it's so frustrating when you talk to people and people book calls in with you and they just waste your time. Does anyone else feel like that? Has anyone ever had it where people are booking in calls and you sit there and you really struggle to get the conversation going because the person that's booked has kind of booked it on a whim but doesn't really understand why? This is a big thing that happens in the market, and it's a reason why so many people waste time. What I like to do is use these workshops as a way of being able to nurture and actually make sure that the right people are showing up. And then therefore, when they're booking in calls, I know they want to speak to us about the things that we can help them with. It's a really, really powerful thing that we should all be looking at when it comes through. Now, this is the process, right, that I'm going to take you through today. This is the reason why you're here. Now, again, I'm going to take you through this step by step as we go through this, right? And in the process section, I'm going to talk to you about it in a lot more detail. But to give you the overview, what we've got here is LinkedIn is acting as the central point in terms of connecting and building an audience. What we're then looking to do is drive people through to a lead magnet, something that we give away for free that's got some form of value attached to it, that drives people to an email list. Now, with the LinkedIn event invites in the email list, we drive people then to a webinar opt-in, get people to the webinar and into a close. Really simple to do, really obvious, straightforward, not an issue for anyone to do whatsoever. The thing that make or break this is actually the message that you put out there that flows throughout the middle of it. And this is the stuff where I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about today, because it's one thing taking this process and trying to create it. There's another thing getting it converting. And where I want to start with all of this is right at the beginning. And this is all about positioning yourself as someone that's worth listening to. So whenever you run one of these, people actually show up, and they show up engaged and they want to listen. And this is the section where it's all about brand building and getting yourself out there. When I look at most people using LinkedIn, and you will all have seen this at some point on this platform without a shadow of a doubt, what we see time and time again is people just preaching information. They spew out content that people just don't care about. It's almost ego-filling. And I'm not saying this to upset anyone or be a bit of an arse or anything like that. I'm doing it because I want to be completely honest with you. What most people, when it comes to content, do themselves more harm than good. And they do it because they end up just speaking stuff because someone's told them that they need to post a bit of content in a day, but they're not really putting too much thought behind it. They wake up first thing in the morning, they frantically type something out and they put it out there. The problem is with that is that from a psychological point of view, if you're out there preaching without really earning the right, and I'm going to give you an example here. There's a guy called Daniel Priestley who I really, really like his stuff. He's a really cool guy. I've met him a couple of times. And he is someone that's written a couple of amazing books. He is 100% positioned as an authority, as someone that's worth listening to. And he puts out real technical content. Now, the reason why his engagement is so high on that technical content is because he's earned the right. He could literally put out pretty much anything he wants and engagement would be there. It's the same thing with the majority of influencers that are out there in the market. and actually why it's dangerous for us to creators to look at those people and try and take inspiration from their content, because what works for them won't work for you unless you're at a similar authority level. So what we need to understand is the way in which we need to communicate to start building up our authority so we get to the point where we actually have the right to preach. What lots of people do is they just tell people and give advice and tips that, quite frankly, no one reads and no one actually pays any attention to. What happens is you end up blending into the newsfeed and getting ignored. On the right-hand side of that screen, you can see some of the work that we do. So every week we have like a mentoring call with our group, and we talk about this stuff in depth. We talk about messaging and the way that we stand out. And what we see people go through, and this is the thing that I want you to take a step back on now and just start thinking about, is how you currently communicate and how you currently show people what it is that you do. When people talk about documentation online, you may have heard of a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. Let me know in the comments if you've heard of Gary before. But when I first started to study marketing, Gary was someone that I watched a lot of his YouTube videos, and he talks about this whole theory of documenting rather than creating. If you've not heard of him, by the way, just and you don't like swearing, don't watch Gary Vaynerchuk. You won't like him. But if you don't mind a bit of foul language every now and again, he's definitely someone to look at. Gary Vaynerchuk is his name. If you put Gary V-E-E into YouTube, you'll see. But he talks about documentation. And what people default to is telling people what they've done. Today, I did this. This is what happened. And the thing with that is that people don't care about it. So what you've got to do, if you actually look at what Gary does rather than what he says for you to do, Gary shows his day to day. He shows his week to week. He shows his month to month. Does it in video format. He does it in photo format. He does it in podcast format. He's showing it to people. It makes it real. When people see things, the authority level goes up. Is why we do a lot of things on video and why we train people how to communicate on here. This is the sort of stuff that we need to get quite detailed on, because if not, unfortunately, you're just not going to position yourself in the right way. And when I look back at when I first started doing this, now some of you may or may not know this, but this isn't my first business. I had a property company, I had an Airbnb and a serviced accommodation business when I first started. And I did a lot of consulting in that space as well. So I used to help other businesses grow because of the speed of which we did. And I remember looking at all the different people that were doing similar things to us. And I realized that to be able to really thrive in this environment, running workshops and trainings and consulting, I did really need to be someone that knew his stuff. And when I look out there online right now, there's a lot of people that are saying things that, quite frankly, maybe don't know enough yet to be able to do it. And again, I'm not saying that to upset anyone. I'm just being real. So what I had to do, because I was brand new in all of this, I had to really study. I had to get into the nitty gritty. I had to test. I had to really understand my subject area if I ever wanted to provide advice around it. And this is something that you can all do. Go out there and start looking about how people are creating content out there. So again, for me, if you go onto the YouTube right now and type in LinkedIn, you get these two videos that come up. Now, it's a good research tool, this, because you can take your subject area and do the exact same and see who are the people that are being listened to the most. You can take that and you can see all the good things that they do. And then you can also look at all the different things where they're missing out on certain elements. So to give you an example, on my YouTube channel, I noticed that lots of people were talking about how to make a great LinkedIn profile, but they weren't showing you how to do it. So I remember it was around about 6 to 8 months ago, it might be closer to a year, but I offered out profile reviews where I would record myself reviewing a profile, saying what people had done well, where people could improve, and the changes that we would make if we were running the account. I took that content and I put it out there online, and it did extremely well. We got over 200 hours of watch time on the video, and it trended for a short while in LinkedIn profile optimization. We took the time to identify where the gaps were. And again, this is something that you can do with all of your stuff as well. If you're in recruitment, as an example, go and have a look at all the educators in the recruitment space and look at what they're doing. When I'm looking for a job, or when I first wrote my CV, I didn't go to Google. I went straight to YouTube and I typed in how to write a great CV. Suddenly, that then showed me a load of different creators. And when I started to apply for my first job, it was Indeed that I went through. I watched that video and they helped me. And they ended up being the person that linked me up with the recruitment that placed me. It's little things that you can do here. It's just take the time to have a look back. And One of the best things that I can advise you to do is to take this time to do a little bit of research. Now, we do this on behalf of companies a lot. And what we're looking for is gaps. We're looking for little gaps in search elements to be able to find what content you need to create. And this sometimes takes a little bit of thinking. It takes a little bit of conversation with customers. But when you do that, you can start to take advantage. Now, someone that we did a lot of work with over a 1.5 year period was a guy called Jamie York. I went out for dinner with him yesterday, and I was talking to him a little bit about this stuff and kind of like the journey that he's been on. And he employed me as a consultant to launch his education brand in lockdown. It was in 2020, and one of the things that I knew that we had to do was tackle him of becoming an actual proper creator. Jamie was a speaker at the time. He used to travel the country speaking at different events, looking to raise money for his property investment company and also the training that he delivered. And I noticed that there were a few big individuals in the property space that were using YouTube and LinkedIn very well. And there was an opportunity, though, to be able to provide real high value education, but blunt advice. There was a lot of fluff out there in the marketplace. And again, you might also have a niche in an industry, which is quite similar. But we took the time and we worked out where the gaps were and where their weaknesses were. And then what I did was we looked at collaborating with other people that had audiences to help kind of take him out of his original network that he was in. He was working for a company called Progressive Property at the time, but everyone in Progressive knew him, but he didn't have any other circles that did. So we picked him up and we started doing interviews in other areas to try and really build up his brand. Again, something that you can do. It doesn't take that long to do this. And what that then did was it allowed us to tap into different people's audiences to position him at speed. What we looked to do is we worked out what his audience truly needed, that built the authority by doing it. Forgive the typo on that, by the way. Work outing. What is that? That's horrendous. But we worked out what they truly needed. And that's done by using certain websites. So we use Quora, so Quora. We use Reddit. And we searched Facebook groups to look at kind of like the most commonly asked questions. You can use LinkedIn groups for this as well. Like, they're not the most amazing things in the world, but there's information in there. We looked at comment sections on YouTube videos. So like some of the most popular YouTube videos, if you go into the comments, you can see questions that are being asked but aren't being answered. This is gold that you can use, by the way. And answerthepublic.com. So answer the public. Go and type in your niche in your industry, your keywords, and it will show you the sort of stuff that then you can leverage and start putting into your own content. By creating the stuff that fills gaps, you start to position yourself quicker. So something that you need to do if you want to use this sort of strategy. And one of the key things that we did was really have a testing mindset. So really understand that not everything that we do is going to work. And that's fine, because as long as we keep moving forward and we keep learning, then eventually we will grow. And what actually happened with Jamie is that he started off with I think it was 3,000 followers on LinkedIn. We started his YouTube channel from brand scratch. And again, this is stuff that we teach people how to do. But we went to town in terms of kind of his content. He stayed disciplined, he stayed consistent, and he worked really hard at it. He's now got a YouTube subscriber database of around 80,000. It really took off. And then his kind of company have gone on. Now, I'm not a massive fan of ClickFunnels and what they do. However, he's made some good cash when it comes to this stuff because he's followed literally the process step by step and just focused in on one specific thing until he nailed it. It's one of the bits of advice that I gave in my piece of content today. And one of the things that I learned from him was this kind of application of not trying to do a million things at once, but get one process absolutely nailed. And once that's automated, move on to the others. This is the thing that we are living and breathing. And it's something that Sasha did the exact same. Now, Sasha's done a slightly different thing here. And again, you may be in a different position and you might relate to one of these over the other. But Sasha was a virtual assistant. And one of the things in the have we got any virtual assistants on today? Is anyone working in administration or executive assistants? Let me know if you are. But one of the things in this space is that it's so competitive. You might be in a competitive space right now with whatever it is you're doing. But the problem is when you kind of position yourself as someone that's the same as everybody else, you end up blending in. And I knew how good Sasha was because she was my virtual assistant at the time. So what we took the time to do, and these are questions that you need to answer, take a picture of them, write them down, and really go to town in answering them. but work out like what makes you special and really understand why someone should buy from you. When I was speaking to Sash, the one thing that she did was that she was really organized and she was very, very good at dragging out certain elements of content out of me from just the conversations we were having. And she was also a fantastic process writer, like in terms of the way that we did it. Now, Sasha used to charge herself out by the hour. And therefore, what happened was she ended up getting into these price battles all the time. So we took the real big decision to switch up how she packaged her services. And this is something that we advise people on how to do as well. But it's like you take the time to look at how you can start to take yourself out of the day-to-day fighting for business and start to put yourself above. And we started to create different packages for her, online business management packages where retainers started at £1,000 a month rather than being £20 an hour. And just making that change. And again, this is how quick it can happen. It's not that difficult. This stuff is like so simple to do. When you get it working, this is where you can start to see the results, right? She's gone on to do over 100 grand in her company now. She's got a real cool niche working with people that have got learning disabilities. And she's flying in terms of the way that she's now generating business, but it's because she's positioned herself different to everyone else. And at the end of today's session, I'm going to be offering you the chance to speak to me and go through these certain things. So we're going to be talking about your message. And then this is like talking through your strategy about how it can be positioned maybe slightly better. I'm going to take a look at your overall product and your offer and just identify how relevant it is in today's marketplace. And then I want to have a look at your current marketing process and then look at what we could potentially build using this kind of like approach. What I'd like to know is there's only a few of them available. I'm probably going to do about 15 to 20 of them. There's quite a number of you on here today. But just out of interest, would anyone be interested in one of those calls just to talk through it? Just put a yes in the chat if you would be. I'm going to give you a link at the end to be able to go through it. And what we'll do is we'll take half an hour and we'll just talk through what it is that you're doing and how it can be better. So that's there for you. Again, you'll see my calendar. You just book the time in, first come, first serve, and you can go through. So with positioning, like it's quite difficult to give you practical things to do because like it's not something that you can click your fingers and it happens. But when I took the time to really think about like some sort of bits of advice and tips that I can give you around positioning, these are the things that came up for me. Number one is doing the research. So actually looking at trying to find the gap. Can everyone still hear me, by the way? Charles has said that he can't hear me. Just let me know if you can. I'm coming in loud and clear still, right? Yes, we are. Good. Fantastic. Charles, it must be on your end. Apologies. But it's taking the time to identify like the gap. And that's something that I'll do on that call. And I'll act as that external pair of eyes for you to be able to identify it. But actually, you can do that with a friend. You can do that with a colleague. Or you can do that with your clients. Like your clients are actually the best source of information because they've actually bought from you. Another bit of advice is talk to people that refer you, because when you've got a referral, they've obviously got the trust from the person they're recommending you to. However, what they will be saying will be clearly communicating how you can help. And therefore, what they're saying is gold, which you can use in your marketing. So again, with all of this, forgive the dog barking. With all of this, it's just about understanding why people should buy from you. And more importantly, when. Think about who you could leverage to get in front of in other people's audiences. Like one of the tasks that I get everyone to do is just to write down all of the people that have got podcasts, got YouTube channels, they've got Facebook profiles, Instagram profiles, LinkedIn profiles that you could potentially have a conversation with that could then be posted into their communities. By being that person, you're positioning yourself higher. So again, take the time and write down 10 podcasts, 10 YouTube channels, 10 Facebook groups, 10 Instagram profiles, and start collecting that data because then we can start to leverage it. The big one really, I guess, is expect change, right? With your messaging, what you write today, just like what I'm saying today, will have to change and develop if you want to stay like top of the market. So what I was saying 3 months ago is different to what I'm saying now. Yes, there's some similarities, but the way in which I frame it and the stories and the scenarios that I use to help kind of like layer it home has to change for people to keep coming back and watching more. So if you're still talking about the same stuff that you were when COVID hit, then unfortunately you will have seen a gradual tail off in the way that your audience are engaging with you. This is something that I'm always encouraging people to do. Is why people stay with us for so long, because we're always looking for that new way of wrapping what we're doing to keep people interested and top of mind. And then the final point is the easy one, right? It's easy to really position yourself if what you do is actually really good. When I first started, my product and service wasn't particularly great because I didn't know enough. I didn't know how to do it. Now it's at a point where it delivers the results where actually our customers make more noise about it than what we do. That's because it solves the problem. Now, what I want you to think about is how can you improve what it is that you do so other people start talking about it more, so more noise then comes. That's where the credibility comes. And with more credibility, your positioning gets higher. Has part one made sense? Like if anyone's got any questions around part one, put it in the Q&A and I'll answer it at the end for you. We're going to do a Q&A session right at the end. But did that make sense? Was it helpful in terms of giving you a little bit of clarity about the way in which you can kind of take yourself up a bit? I'm glad. Philippa, good stuff. Amazing. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. Good. Cool. It's just an excuse for me to take a drink, really. Perfect. Okay, right. The sexy part, process. How do we connect all of this LinkedIn stuff to get some sales opportunities through? Really important. My bold statement today is that my job isn't really to make you like me. Some of the advice you may not like, right? You don't have to take all of it. My job is just to shine a light on the truth of what's working right now versus what isn't. I hope that's okay. And if it isn't, this is your time to leave because we're about to get a little bit juicy in all of this. People, in my opinion, and I spoke about this, I spoke at Lloyd's Bank last week in Manchester. And this is one of the strong things that I said with people that are looking to use social and to generate leads from it and then business from it in the same way. Most people, unfortunately, the activity that they're doing is just a complete and utter waste of time. I spend 5 to 10 minutes a day on this platform. I actually don't even like using LinkedIn, really. I don't mind it, but it's not a passion of mine. I use LinkedIn to generate business. That's it. Like I'm on it. I do the stuff that I need to do. I get off it and I run my company. And then when I finish running my company, I enjoy my life. That's it. Simple as that. Same with Instagram, same with Facebook. They're quite toxic. I use them to generate some leads and move on. Some of you might enjoy that. Some of you might love social, right? I don't really mind either way. My job here isn't to fluff this up, it's to tell you what works. I see people all the time, like running LinkedIn lives or running Instagram lives, and there's no one there. They're talking to no one. Now, yes, people can watch the replay, but if you're spending half an hour talking to 10 people, what I'd rather you do is actually put a process in place because those 10 people would give you an email address to then run it in this sort of environment where you can market to them over and over again. That then gets compounded. You're not at the mercy of an algorithm. You take control back. I also see people running events with no one watching because they're not doing the front end activity to get the audience there. And this is all due to a lack of process and understanding of what's working or what isn't. People running workshops, right? And they may have an audience there. And this is a real thing that gets said all the time. It's like, oh, that workshop, that webinar was absolutely amazing. I used to get this all the time. It used to drive me insane. It used to make me feel good. Like, don't get me wrong. I've got an ego as well. Like, it used to make me feel great. However, no one then bought anything. So I'm sitting here banging my head against a brick wall saying, well, if it's so good, why don't you want to work with me? And this is not just me that says this, right away. I know loads of you will be actually put yes in capital letters if this is you as well, because this used to literally drive me insane. Like I'm sitting here trying to work out what's going on because people keep telling me just put more value, more value, more value, more value out, and eventually it will happen. It didn't. And the reason why was because what was happening was that I was actually overwhelming people with information. People got to the end of the workshop and they felt like they knew everything and can go and do it. Here's a fact. I was doing them a disservice by trying to pack everything into an hour. Whatever service you provide, whatever coaching or consulting or whatever it is that you do, trying to cram everything that you do into an hour is 100% a mistake. What you need to do instead, right, is focus in your messaging. And I'm going to talk to you about this in the presentation part in a lot more detail. But I'm going to get it out of it now, just so I've said it, so I don't forget it. But focus in your messaging, not to give loads of content, but to help people realize what they're currently doing and whether check it off whether it's right or wrong or not. And then number 2, just one thing that they can take away to do that's going to make a difference, but making them aware that it's not the whole answer. And the whole answer is then the next step that they need to take. what we need you to understand right now, and this is me telling you, I don't really tell anyone anything normally, but this is me telling you, is that if you're not generating results and leads on a consistent basis, because any business can do it, it's not that difficult. If you're not doing it week on week right now, it's because you're putting your time and effort in the wrong places. It's not that you're not working hard. There may be the odd one or two of you that might be. However, the majority of you will be working hard, but just not working hard on the right things. Do you remember this process from earlier? It's kind of like step-by-step process here. Now, in the way that this works, I want to take you through it and break it down so you understand how you can apply it to your company. And the best way is to show you an example. Now, I don't know if Donna's on today. Donna sometimes comes and watches how we deliver these, but Donna's been with us now for around about 4 months. And the reason I've chosen her is because the results aren't like generating millions of pounds, but actually the results happen quite quickly. And it's what the majority of people get to. And the service is quite relevant to a lot of people. Now, Donna is a consultant. She runs a consultancy services and she has a leadership development program. Some of you might be in a leadership consultancy now. And this happens to be like lots and lots of people, right? She had elements of the process that I just showed you before in place. I want to show you which one she did. She'd worked with other marketing people before, but was taking the advice and she was applying it, but it just wasn't working. So she was doing all the social media activity. She was doing everything that she was being told, but she felt like she was banging her head against a brick wall. Now, it took me all the matter, and she booked one of those 30 minutes calls. And we realized that the thing that she didn't have, well, there was actually a number of them, but they were really obvious. And it took us around about 3 minutes to identify them. Melinda, is this relevant for those who don't have a process in? Yes, because you 100% need one. It's 100% relevant. But what we did was we did a bit of a gap analysis, which is what we do on that call. So we realized that although Donna was using LinkedIn regularly, the language that she was using wasn't quite right, and therefore people were scrolling past it. She didn't have a conversion piece of content in place. So like this workshop, she didn't have it in place, right? It wasn't there. And therefore what happened was she was doing all of this social media activity. She was network building, she was posting, she was engaging, she was messaging, but then it wasn't going anywhere. She was trying to sell on the platform, selling in direct messages and doing all this sort of stuff that actually we know that if we put ourselves on the other end, that we wouldn't respond positively to. And therefore what happened was that she was using all of this work, not really showing off how great she was, putting in so much effort for little results. And with all the work that she was doing, she couldn't actually see where things were working well and where things weren't working well. So where things needed to be improved. And this is what I mean by this, right? That's this improvement piece, because I want to talk you through the statistics. When you have this process in place, there's targets that you need to hit, right? There's benchmarks that we set. So what we're looking for, and I'm going to give you the numbers and you can write these down. With a LinkedIn event, you can send 1,000 invites a week. And we recommend having a 3 to 4 week promotional period. So that's how you get going. That's why it's a 6-week plan. You do 4 weeks of promotion, week of delivery, week of selling, and then you rinse and repeat again. Now, if I can get 1,000 people in a month to say yes to a LinkedIn event, right? LinkedIn event is down here, this line here. You can see it drives people all the way through to this webinar opt-in. I'm hoping you can see my mouse. Otherwise, I'm literally drawing things for no reason or moving things for no reason. But this LinkedIn event here drives people to this webinar opt-in. If I can get 1,000 people in a month to say yes, what that means is that 50% of those people, so 500, will end up registering for Zoom. So that's 500 email addresses that I'll expect to collect. You want to be aiming for a 50% movement from people that say yes to the LinkedIn event to coming to the Zoom. So that's 500 people that will register for the Zoom or the webinar. What you can expect out of those 500 people, this is the target that you set, is another 50% of those 500 to actually show up in the month. So that's 250 in total. Okay, so for 1,000 LinkedIn event invites, you can then expect 500 to register and 250 to then actually show up onto the webinar. What we then set you as a benchmark to hit, which is achievable for anyone, is we hit this every single time, is a 10% conversion of the people that show up to book a call. So the way that you present what you do is the people that are booking calls, they normally want to work with you. So you can start to see if 250 people show up, 10% is all you need to be able to get 25 new clients or 25 sales calls booked at the end of it. That is the statistics that we're looking to use if you've got the full end-to-end process of this in place. When we looked at Donna's, this is what she had. So she had a profile, she network build, she sent messages out, and she had a lead magnet that people weren't really relating to very much. And what we looked at was, okay, well, we know the gaps now. We know what you've got. Now, what we need to do over the next week or so is put this process in place, okay? So this is really simple, really straightforward. But basically, we looked at putting these green things in place. It takes a week to do. It's following the step-by-step plan. It takes you a week. The lead magnet you do as you move forward with all of this. The email campaign, you have all the templates for. You just plug and play them in. The webinar, there's a tutorial to follow to click and move. But with all of that, once you've done it and you promote and you move forward, you can then look to measure the statistics as you go. And you need to take the time to build in your own process. So you can see kind of like Donna, this is the support that we offer inside of the academy. But basically she sends the presentation deck over. We then look at the deck and we say, look, this is good. This is where you need to improve. You then run a test run. So you practice it. You send the recording over. We then watch it. We look at it. And this is what you need to do. You need to run the process so it's all smooth. We need to identify the message that's going to flow within it. So we looked at the title and how that was going to be structured. We looked at the presentation deck, and then what we look to do is take the automated email campaigns and just plug them in. It's like literally you click 3 buttons and it's done. We then created a lead magnet. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the lead magnet that Donna had, but it's been downloaded a lot and it's on her profile if you go and have a look at it. And then what we said to him, this is what we say to every single person. If you're going to use this process, just like I said, like Jamie said to me, you need to focus in on one process and just nail it. So we removed everything else that didn't apply to this process, and we just 100% committed to do it for that 6-week period. Just by following that plan, and this is what you can do as well, we built that converting process. So what happens is, if we don't get, and this is just an example, if we don't get from the 500 people that register for Zoom, if we don't get 250 people show up, so the 50% show up, and let's say it's only 40%, we know that actually everywhere else on the webinar process is totally fine. It works. It's just that bit there, the show up between registration and the actual showing up of the Zoom where we need to do some work. So as an example, we have a spreadsheet that we use that tells you what you need to focus in on. I want to give you the answer here for that. If you're getting under 50% show up rate, it's because your reminder sequence isn't strong enough. So you would have received the reminder. Let me know. Have you received a Zoom reminder 1 week, 1 day, and 1 hour before this event started? What lots of people do is they don't turn those on. So that can actually be one of the causes for a low show-up rate. These are little things that you can do to be able to increase it. And if that suddenly drops, you know that that's what you've got to spend your time on fixing. Nothing else. Everything else is fine. From Donna doing it, within 3 hours of a workshop finishing, she generated just over $6,000 in sales. So it's not groundbreaking, but however, like it's really strong in terms of the overall performance. So what that allows us to do now is improve. And we know exactly what she needs to do. Bearing in mind, she had 80 people register, 33 attended. So you can see there, right? 80 people registered. We'd expect 40 to attend. We only had 33. So we'd actually have a look at the show up rate and see like, okay, well, if the show up's lower, it normally means that the title may not be attractive enough, or it might be that there's no reminders gone out. Or if, for instance, 33, you would expect 10% conversion, which would mean 3 people should have booked. That means that we've got 1 less application than normal. So there's work to do in the way that she presented her offer and the actual next logical step. But again, as you go through all of this, you can see that people sign up off the back end of it because she's spending time talking to people that want to work with her. This is what the process allows you to do. And what I want to encourage you to do is just to start thinking about how we can get the best version of you out there. Like, you might not be a YouTuber, right? I don't classify myself as a YouTuber. However, I create video content and create the titles to get people to come and find me. I drive people from LinkedIn to YouTube and from YouTube to the webinars because that's a nice process for people to go down. I'm looking to really get people to see the best version of me. What I find lots and lots when I'm working with businesses is that the people that you speak to on Zoom, so if I speak to you in the next hour or next couple of days, like I'll speak to you and I'll see how amazing you are, but then I'll look at your social media profile and I'll see probably like the 10% version of you. What I want to help you do is be able to work out what you need to say and how you need to say it so you can start driving people to see the best version of you. Because I can imagine that if people saw how good you were, suddenly generating business wouldn't be an issue. And this is where taking control really, really plays its part. Because what we need to do is work out exactly what we need to be saying to get our audiences to listen to us, and also what these platforms want us to post. Something that we talk about a lot. I'm not going to talk to you about it too much in this session because I haven't got the time. But when you work with this a little bit further, if you decide that it's right for you, but there's lots and lots of stuff around content strategy and how you position yourself even further. These are just examples that you can take images of, by the way. This is the sort of content that I use to be able to produce social proof and position myself in a way. Can you start to see here? Just humor me. But like the bottom bit there of me talking in front of audiences, how that positions me as an authority. Does that give you that impression? I mean, I could be talking about anything, right? But this is the sort of stuff that we look to push our people to do so they can start to really showcase how good they are. At the top, this was me in the property business in the same way. So what I used to do was showcase kind of like all the properties that we were doing with captions that kind of looked a little bit like this, like £600 profit per month, evaluating the property. Look at the profit that we're making. Look at the income. Look how we're raising money. And I used to show people what we were doing. And that then helps that overall positioning aspect. And if you tie that into the process part, that's where this all comes into play. And this is just another perfect example, right? Caroline might be on here because, again, she works with us directly. But this is how this process is so strong. For every person that I connect with, some of you may have received this message from me already, I send this message. So you can see back in February of last year, I sent this message, driving Caroline to a YouTube video. This message for 30 odd days got completely and utterly ignored. This is what happens with messaging. People don't tend to respond, but it doesn't mean they don't watch. What we then did was wait. Nothing really happened because I didn't know Caroline was interested. Then sent me that message. That was 33 days later. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Social Selling Academy, blah, 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 blah. What I then did was, rather than kind of having a back and forth and trying to sell in a direct message, which is what lots of people fall foul of, I said, look, I'm free for a call if you want to talk through. So that 30-minute call that you get access to at the end of this, I jumped on one of those and gave her some advice just to see whether it would work. She really liked it. But rather than then going, hey, look, here's the Academy, join, I went, look, just take a little bit more time just to look at what we do and how we communicate and if we're right for you. And I sent her the link to a replay of one of these workshops. I used the webinar as an asset, right? Training video sounds good. She watched it, and that was sent at 2:22 p.m. and at 5:35 p.m. Loved the webinar, signed up, and we move. Okay. That's the process in place. I didn't have to really do too much. I jumped on a call. I basically, in this point, just did the strategy call before the webinar. I did it backwards. But actually, with this process, you're allowed to do that when these sorts of opportunities arise. But if you don't have the process in place, then you just fall behind. So to finish off part 2, some top tips for process, what I want you to look at here is taking the time to think about your customer journey. So you can use tools to map it out. What you've got to think of is LinkedIn isn't an end-to-end sales solution anymore. It's a place to capture attention and drive traffic to a place where you earn the right to talk about what you do. When you get your process right, like I mentioned before, you can focus on the metrics that matter. So I don't care about how many impressions that I get or how many people I reach or how many likes or comments I get. It's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean anything. What I'm focusing on are 2 things. The webinar performance metrics, so the percentages of conversion, and how many email addresses I've collected. Email addresses are valuable. You can do something with them. Impressions on posts just aren't. So what I want to drive you to do is think about the right things. And please, if you can, by following this stuff, stop guessing your way to success. Yes, there's an element of testing, but what I don't like people doing, and this is a real strong opinion, but it's like looking at a webinar, delivering it, getting to the end of it, no one buying, and then trying to rewrite a whole new presentation. What you need to get used to is talking about the same thing in the same way and slightly changing things until it works. You let the numbers dictate what changes you make. You leave nothing to guesswork. And when you realize all of this, and also the important fact that people aren't on social to buy things, this is where you start to win. Social media is not Amazon. It's not Google. We don't go onto it actively searching to buy a product. So us even thinking about us selling things on there goes completely against the way that we behave on these platforms. The reason we use them are for one of two reasons: for our own selfish outlook, for what we want, and because we're bored. As long as you know that, you can play the game as it's meant to be played and start to win. If you're trying to pitch and promote all the time, you just won't get there. It's part 2 made sense. Give me a rating out of 10. If out of part 2, what would you rate part 2 out of 10? Okay, I like a 10. Cheers, Steve. I appreciate that. This gives me time to have a drink again. That's what I'm doing, really, is buying time. Right, amazing. Eric's giving me an 8. There's always room for improvement, Eric. Always room for improvement. I'll get there. Right, part 3. How do we move through and actually present? Now, it's all well and good putting a process in place, positioning yourself well. But how do you generate consistent sales? Ashley Cannon on the right. Some of you may see Ashley's content out there. He's part of us. He works with us. And some of the results that he's got just from implementing this are ridiculous. 21 members in his mentoring team, upsold a 6K package as well. Just done amazingly well with what he's doing, right? But again, like I said at the beginning, people fill these masterclasses with content and value. Don't get me wrong. This, I hope, has been useful, but I can't give you it all. It's literally not possible. I can give you elements of the information. I can give you all the diagrams, and you can go away and you can do it. You'll be able to take something away from this. But what I'm really comfortable with is by the end of it, being able to introduce you to the next step, if it's right for you. And what I need to get you to do is understand that it's okay as well. When you're running these events, I'm going to keep saying it time and time again. It's not about telling anybody anything. I have small moments in this where I will actually tell you and give you instruction. The rest of it is me showing you how other people are doing it, so you can put yourself in their position and go, is that right for me? Because it's not my job to tell you what's right and wrong. I can only show you what's worked for us and other people. And therefore, when you test it, it's whether it then works for you. That's just me being 100% open with you. And when I look at how we've done this with the 240 plus people that we've worked with in the past, the biggest things that we've looked at when it comes to presenting is the language that we use to grab the attention of our prospects. Now, I'm going to give you an example here of someone that's in our community, a guy called Matt, who wrote a post yesterday. And he titled his post something that you might have actually think was pretty good. It was, "Who said the property industry was crashing?" That was his title. The problem with that sort of title is that, even if me being interested in property, if I haven't said yes or no to that, I'm not engaging with it because I don't care about it. People sit on the fence with their content. And what I'm going to drive you to do is find your voice and find your opinion to be able to get people to agree and disagree with you. Agreement and disagreement is how engagement actually occurs, how it all happens. So that change of title from "Who said a property crisis was coming," I'd switch it to, how's the best way of framing this? "The property industry is not dying, ! Here's why, ... Something quite strong with a bit of powerful impact. And therefore, if you've got any interesting property, you're going to be like, well, what does he mean? Click and drive through. Same way in where we title webinars and the way that we drive the action here. With every slide that I do, you will notice there's a structure that I follow. I really hit a point home. So my first point is, what am I trying to say? The second point is why you should care. So on this slide here, the reason why you need to care is because if you just deliver information in workshops, unfortunately, people are going to go to sleep. I'm going to tell you why it's important. And then I'm going to move into an example and a story and a scenario that's going to help you realize how true it is and how it can apply. We put this structure into everything that we do, and it allows us to take people on a journey. And this is what I want you to go on and feel when you're delivering. And then at the end, I don't hard pitch, right? Our product isn't for everyone. I introduce it. There it is. There's a next logical step. People either want it or they don't. And that's it. So therefore, I don't get cringy. I don't rush it. It's just, it is what it is. And we know it helps people. And therefore, for the people it does, great. For the people it doesn't, also great. You might have found value from this. But the results when you start to apply this stuff are real, right? This is stuff that's happening now, right now in terms of it. When you start to talk the right language, you use the right structure and present what you do in the right way, you get consistent results over and over and over again. Now, every Monday at 12 o'clock, we have like a live mentoring session. And this is where I deliver lots of advice on these things. We deliver content and then we move. Here are some of these biggest pieces of advice I've given over the last 3 months. The big one, the moment you tell is the moment you'll never sell. Like, again, if you just go out there and start dictating what people should be doing without earning the right, you'll only push people away. Number 2 is take the time to write down all the mistakes your current prospects are making and start to create content that addresses those mistakes in story-based format. Don't go saying, if you're making your mistake, then you need to do this. Reframe it. Sasha was making this mistake, and this was how she was feeling about making it. This is what we did. This was the result. If you're interested in finding out more, then drop a comment below. Helpful? Reframe slightly, not telling anything, wrapping it in a story, moving on. You're doing everything. You shine a light and then you share an experience to help people realize that you know what you're talking about. This is how credibility is built, by applying it to something in which people understand. And it's where people get really wrong when they pack loads of information. What I really, really hope that you're getting throughout all of this is that I'm not delivering you a live masterclass, right? What I'm looking to do is help you kind of make some movement and move forward. And then for those of you, which is right, help you realize that we're here to help you. That's it. It's all you need to do in yours in the exact same way. And it's all I ever teach when I'm on these mentoring sessions as well. And when you get it right, you can see all of these small, like little red blocks here. And it says, and Sam, and Sam, and Sam, and Sam. Sam did a webinar a week and a bit ago. Some of you might have been on Sam's butterfly effect workshop. I know some of you might have joined it. But we ended up booking 37 calls in 3 hours after that webinar was delivered. She had to open up more to be able to do it because of the way that she framed and the way that she did everything and the way that she introduced the next logical step. When you get it right, your diaries will fill up because it's just the next obvious decision for the person to make. Presenting comes down to these top tips. You can take a picture of this, right? It's really easy. When you're delivering, there's nothing worse than listening to the same monotone, boring speaker. You have to train to be able to communicate. That's something that we do. We train on all of this stuff, okay? Empathy, energy, enthusiasm, the 3 E's of effective delivery. This is what we actually really encourage you to do. Whenever I watch your webinar replay, or if I ever watch you do a test, or I ever watch you do one live, they're the 3 things I'm always looking. Right, do they have empathy? Are they letting people relate to them? Are they energetic, and do they show passion? Then once they've got those 3 things ticked, then it becomes about the content. Have they got stories and scenarios? Do they introduce the services, right? This is the sort of stuff that all makes the biggest difference. And those final 2 points there, I don't need to read them for you. They're there for you, right? The key to being smooth and powerful when it comes to these is understanding that it's okay if you fail at them. There's so many webinar replays that are saved of mine that you can watch that will make you feel better about yourself when you deliver these things. They were horrendous. But you convert your first one, you may not convert anything. Your second one, you may do 5%. The next one, you do 7, then 10. When you get to 20, you can automate it. And then you have this happening on autopilot. So if you go to my YouTube channel or Sam's, you'll see the replays of our webinars. They're on there. They generate leads for us every day. This is stuff that there are lots and lots of people doing out there, some badly, and then there's some like Lorna that are doing it really well. So 2 clients signed up again, 85 registered, 26 turn up. We've got lots and lots of work to do. She had 7 calls booked out of 26, huge conversion rates, but show up was weak. What we're looking at is how we can put that together. I'm hoping, like by today, what I've given you is kind of advice into how to get going with all of this and maybe cause you to think slightly differently. But the truth of it all is, if you want consistent flow of leads, you don't need to be posting huge amounts of content online. If you start Googling what the algorithm's doing, you're going wrong. Don't worry about it. It's irrelevant. What you need is a product that's packaged in a way that people get and understand. You need a process in place that you can just follow, and then one that effectively nurtures people to the point where they want to buy, and then a promotion/traffic plan that's going to get people there over and over again. If you're a consultant, a service-based business owner, and recruit, whatever it is that you do, I have no doubt that you love it and you're passionate about it. But we need to get your business to a point where you're marketing it in a way that gets you the results that you do. Okay. So I just want to introduce you to it. Again, this is there for you if you want to hear about it. The link to book a call is coming in a second if you want it. I'm going to talk to you about our social selling academy. You can put your wallets and your purses away. You can't buy this. It's not available to buy. You'll book a call in to speak to me. It's like a little application form that you need to fill out. It's really easy. What we've done is put together a program that basically delivers this process end to end. So if you're looking at running webinars and workshops, then this is basically how we do it and how we train you to do it. It's loads of tutorials and that sort of thing. But what we're going to do is help you with your product offering. We're going to get your message. So the one talent that I've got is be able to work out what your business needs to be saying to get people to relate and then buy. So again, I can talk to you about that on the 30-minute call. I'm then going to choose a campaign type for you. So we spend time looking at the campaigns. There are about 7 different campaigns that you can run. If you're on here right now, an events campaign is the one for you. And again, we'll talk to you about how you do that and implement it. Talked about how you build your brand, like I did with Jamie, like I did with everyone that's in there. But Jamie's got 80,000 YouTube subscribers. We talk about YouTube in there and how you position yourself. And then I'll talk about nurturing. So how do you keep building relationships over and over again? The framework on the right is how we deliver it. It's lots of different elements, lots of modules that you go through, but it isn't about binge watching our content. It's about doing the content at the right pace at the right time to get the right result. Some of you may know Jo. Jo's online. Her lipstick video is quite famous now. But again, she's worked with us for quite a while now, for over 2 years in the academy. And the results speak for themselves when it comes to what she's done. You only need to go and have a look at Jo's account to see how she's done it. The training is stuff that we used to deliver in person. People like to know this. And we used to teach hundreds of people every year on it. Because of COVID, we moved it online and we're finding it's absolutely insane because of all the people that we're able to help. So again, I'm not going to sit here and read this for you, right? Like if you're really interested, there's loads of feedback online on this. I don't need to sit here and tell you how great it is. Just go and have a look for yourself. It's all there for you to look at. But the results are there over and over and over again for people to look at it. It's one of the things that we're extremely proud of when it comes to it. Inside of the package, just so you're all aware of what's included in the academy, you work with us for 12 months. You get the roadmaps that you need to follow, really easy. You get we hold your hand through the process. So we review absolutely everything. We will review your profiles. We will read and adjust your content. We will read and adjust your messages. If you send slides over, we will review them. If you send webinar replays over them, we will show you where you need to go get better. And we're not coaches. We're not going to ask you questions that then you have to come up with the answers with. And we're going to tell you what you should be doing. And then it's up to you if you want to implement it or not. We know how this works. We look at landing pages, we look at offers, we look at sales calls, we look at it all for you to get this working. We run weekly mentoring sessions. And again, sometimes we deliver content, sometimes it's like a mastermind type thing. They're every Monday at 12 p.m. You get all of our templates. So you get this slide deck broken down into like what you should be saying on each slide and how you relate it. You get all of our email promos, you get all of our best performing content. You get the campaign roadmaps to follow. And again, the feedback is kind of the big bit. I'm going to talk to you about Slack in a second and how it works. But for all of this, again, like people spend tens of thousands of pounds on this sort of stuff. And we're not looking for that. It's 150 quid a month. Really simple. One-off pay, like in terms of the payment, you work with us for 12 months. It's 150 quid. And then you stay with us after the 12-month monthly rolling, like most people do, because they like the reviews and the feedback and the message adaptation that we deliver. Really simple, really fair, I like to think. We support you every step of the way through Slack. So we've got 240 odd people, I think, in there now. There's nothing that goes unanswered. We share ideas. Like we live and breathe this stuff every day, right? So I'm documenting my journey in that group for everybody. And like I say, whether it's messages, profiles, campaigns, landing pages, like we do all of this to make sure that you get your results that you're looking for. If webinars and events are something that you want to run in your company, I'm fed up of people saying the webinars don't work. They 100% do. You're just doing them wrong. Really easy, really simple to apply. And again, the feedback is everywhere on the internet. There's that many people. Go and read it. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, my profile, Sam's profile. It's all there. We have one rule if you come and work with us, and this applies to the 30-minute call as well. If you come and work with us, the biggest thing is to do basically what Donna has fed back. Just do what we say. Don't do anything else. Literally just follow the process step by step and it will work. Because it's not that difficult. It's really easy. What we find ourselves is that we just find excuses to distract ourselves. If you just deliver this, you'll get the similar results to us because this is all we do. It's just really straightforward and it's really easy. So it's first comes, first served. There's actually 20 calls available if you look at my diary. It's not 15. I should have changed that. You can tell how amazing I am at these, right? All you need to do, I'm going to put the link in the chat box for you so you can find it. But you need to just go to pipeline44.com/apply, and this will give you one of those free calls. So pipeline44.com/apply. Yes, I'll do a Q&A at the end, not a problem. But if you go to that link, you'll see I'm doing calls over the next few days. If someone could click that link, just make sure it works for me, because I can't whilst I'm doing this. But if you click that link, you fill out the form, you book your call time in. I'll speak to as many of you that I can. I'm away on Friday. But if you book it in, we can talk through your process, talk through your message, see if this is right for you. If it is, great. If it isn't, you'll still get value from that call anyway. It's kind of how we work. I like to think it's quite simple. There's the breakdown for those of you that have asked. Susanna, we do, yes, if you drop me a message, and we could talk about that on the call, actually. Melinda, if you just book a time in, then just email me that you say you're away, we can amend it. We can amend the dates when you're back. That's fine, not a problem. That's how it works. Really simple. 150 quid a month, really straightforward. For those of you that have asked, it's there again for you. There's the link, you've got it. What I'm going to do now is just stop sharing. I'm just going to go into the Q&A section. If you've got any questions, I don't tend to do mentoring like this, but I said I would. If you've got any questions or anything, then I can answer. A couple of you are asking for the recording. Yes, it will be on my YouTube channel probably by tonight or tomorrow, depending on it. Some of you have asked what happens after the year. I thought I said it. So after the 12 months of you working with us, it just goes to monthly rolling. So people ask, why would you stay? The people that stay are the ones that just want the feedback on the webinars and the profiles and their messaging. They want the support from us. You can't get any other support from us apart from being a part of that. So yeah, really straightforward in the way that it works. Yeah, that's kind of it really. Content wise, yes. So for each campaign that you run, and there's a content plan that's allocated to it. So you're not left to your own demise with content. When you run a campaign, you get the exact content plan to follow that's going to be effective for your campaign. So that's how we do it. So John, in terms of start time, we have intakes. So each time we run one of these, there's an intake. I think this one closes, romantically on Valentine's Day. I think how it works. Cool. Philippa, amazing. Speak to you later on. Brilliant. Cool. A few of you have said booked in. Amazing. Okay. I've gone slightly over the hour. It was meant to be an hour and a half, so I've actually got through this one a bit quicker. I hope that's been helpful for you all. If so, if you're still here and participating and not filling in a form, do you want to give me an emoji of kind of how you found today? I'd like to finish off on that. That would be fantastic. And we can move through. I've enjoyed it. I've had great fun delivering this one. I think it's been worthwhile for you in terms of kind of hearing how we do this stuff. For those of you that have booked your call, I look forward to speaking to you. And if not, I hope you found this valuable. Please share it with anybody that you might think it might be useful for. Have an amazing week. And I will see you all very, very soon. See you later. Bye-bye.